First of all, to thank the folks at the America's Wetland Foundation in this leadership roundtable that they're undertaking, because it really is time to start executing. We've got to start delivering projects to restore our coast and protect people. And of course, we have started, but not in the robust way that we need to. And it's all a matter of revenue to finance the Coastal Restoration Master Plan, which, by the way, the 5-year revision is due in 2017. And so we will be meeting more as this year wraps up. In fact, there's another roundtable on December the 7th that I look forward to participating in, to seeing solutions presented around the financing part, not just what should be in the master plan, because we know that the cost of the master plan is going up significantly. The current 5-year master plan, when it was developed back in 2012, the price tag on it was a minimum of $50 billion. It may be close to twice that in 2017. So critically important that we're successful in identifying every available means of revenue and financing to support and execute this plan, and then to make sure that where we can, we have the ability to speed that up by bonding out those revenue sources so that we have the money necessary to deliver those most important projects, the ones that deliver the biggest bang for the buck, because we are truly in a race against time here in Louisiana as it relates to our coast. This really is one of the great tasks before the state of Louisiana, one of the great challenges. And it's going to take the leadership of all of you all. And I want to thank Sydney and Val, because we had a meeting, I think, before I ever took office. And it was about, well, it was a little less than a year ago, when we talked about having this meeting, having a summit in December. And I'm not sure if y'all picked Pearl Harbor Day for a reason, but December 7th, I'm looking forward to that. Many of you all participating in yesterday's meetings and then again today, y'all have been working on these issues for a very long time, and we're on the verge of completing the analysis for our third comprehensive coastal master plan. As you all know, the 5-year revision is due in 2017, which is right around the corner, and I know we're well on our way. But one of the things, we don't have to wait to see what that revised master plan is going to look like. We know that the price tag associated with implementing that master plan is going to go up just incredibly. We needed a minimum of $50 billion over 50 years for the plan that we came up with 5 years ago. I suspect that is going to probably not quite double, but it'll be something close to that. So that demonstrates the seriousness of what we're doing, and the fact that if we're ever going to get to the execution phase, which we better do very quickly, we've got to find every available means of revenue in order to implement the plan. So at this point, we've practically and successfully married our restoration efforts with protection efforts. We have built up resources required to understand the environment of today and tomorrow, and then use that information to make the best possible predictions about the future. And doing that is very difficult, because these are some of the most difficult set of circumstances imaginable. And after all that work, I know we really wish the land loss maps that you saw yesterday would have turned out to be less red. Instead, what we've seen is the clearest picture yet of the enormity of the challenge and the extremely high stakes of this undertaking. If you thought we could solve this problem without having to use every single tool at our disposal, then I have to assume that those maps of yesterday have put an end to those thoughts. The reality is simple. We're all in this together, and we cannot wait another 5 years to face the music. There has never been a better time to do as much as we can to solve these problems and to make the compromises necessary to get that done. We all know that we're going to get this question: why spend the money in the first place if the coast is in so much trouble? Well, the reason why is pretty simple. Because we have communities there, just like Governor Blanco just said. We have industries there. We have cultural resources there. It's part of our way of life. It's the fabric of Louisiana. It's what makes us special in many, many ways. And so our job is to protect those resources. Today's meeting is going to focus on finding new avenues to fund this monumental and essential effort, an effort that is producing results. The CPRA has been busy for a long time now. In fact, since it was created. It's been doing planning, engineering, and it's been implementing projects to address our coastal vulnerabilities. But we are in a race against time. And we need to start executing and implementing. We need to make sure that we pursue those projects first that deliver the biggest bang for the buck. And I have had the opportunity now to speak to the president about this, to speak to the vice president about it, to speak to Secretary Vilsack, who, as you all know, is the federal chair of the Restore Council, and trying to find ways with the available revenue streams that we've identified, which ones can be bonded out so that we can get the money up front and do the most pressing projects now, the big projects, the ones that we need to get started. And this is not as simple as you might think, because the revenue sources are not traditional. And so if we can't bond stuff at the state level, I've asked Secretary Vilsack to figure out whether he can bond it at his level and just give us the money up front. He tells me that he is working on that. But that's just one of the things that we are going to have to consider, is how do we get as much money now, not because, I'm the governor and I think that it would be neat to say at the end of this term that we did something. I think we all recognize we're in a race against time. And we have to have big dollars now if we want to do the big projects that are going to make the most difference, those that are the highest priority projects in the master plan. Now, $18 billion has already been secured for coastal protection and restoration, and that is translated into 30,000 acres of coastal land that has been benefited, 274 miles of new or improved levees, and 52 miles of barrier islands and berms that have been constructed. But that's nowhere near enough. From the minute I took office, I've been protecting the work that's already been done and protecting the future by safeguarding the money that we do have. Despite the massive budgetary problems that we faced when I took office, a historic state general fund budget deficit of $2 billion for the current fiscal year, my administration has kept coastal money for coastal projects. And in fact, I ended the practice of using the Coastal Trust Fund as a pass-through to free up one-time dollars for the state's budget. In fact, it's the spending of the one-time dollars that got us into the problem where we are. Last fiscal year, the one-time dollars in our budget exceeded $800 million. They were not available in the current fiscal year, but even if they were available, it's a terrible practice to do that. But one of the ways that was done was they actually used the Coastal Trust Fund. I think that was a mistake, and we ended that in my first year despite the budgetary challenges. And we successfully worked through a number of bills during the regular session that took aim at the coastal program's statutorily dedicated mineral revenues. And I want to thank Johnny Bradbury and the whole team at the CPRA for working with me, for getting with legislators, explaining to them that while their bills had the best of intentions, the impact on the ability to fund our coastal restoration and protection efforts going forward was going to be severely threatened. So today we look a little further into the future to consider new concepts for deriving revenue for this program. When I first met with America's Wetlands Foundation about these roundtables and the upcoming summit back in December of last year, we discussed financing and how we're going to get through this. I said then, and I'm saying it again today, I'm open to creative solutions, and in fact, it's going to require creative solutions. We all have to be open to those solutions. It is the state's coastal master plan, after all. It really isn't the CPRA's master plan. And everybody in here is a stakeholder. Everybody in here has something to contribute. This really is a leadership roundtable. If you didn't have anything to contribute, you wouldn't be here. So we are interested in finding out what you all think as to how we can move forward very quickly and identify additional sources of revenue. I'm also open to other new ideas. I know today there are going to be some great strategies discussed, and I look forward to the summit in December when we can flesh them out in greater length. You know, we need to consider what some of our specific goals ought to be. You know, for example, can we restore 20,000 acres of coast by 2020? And if we can, should we? What will it cost? What would be the opportunity cost if we did that as opposed to doing something else? But I think we ought to all try to come out with a very clear set of priorities so that we can pursue them as we move forward. And so I ask everyone in the room to allow yourself to consider new ideas, be open to taking the steps necessary to implement and fund the efforts that you come up with so that we can better protect and restore Louisiana's coast. I agree with what King said earlier. It's time to execute. It is time to execute. We all agree, I hope, with that concept, even if we can't agree on exactly what we need to be executing. But the one thing I know is we cannot wait until the entire state of Louisiana all agrees about what we're doing, because we will never take the first step if we wait for that. It's going to take leadership. It's going to take a lot of communication. It's going to take public relations, but we have to execute. We have to move forward now. So I want to thank all of you for coming yesterday and today, and for really not just for the last couple of days, but the people in this room, and I see so many of you, you've dedicated your adult lives to this issue. And that is a real signal to me as to how important this is. So I look forward to seeing how this conversation develops today and joining you all again on December the 7th so that we can take the necessary steps to implement our plan and really deliver for the state of Louisiana and protect our way of life. So God bless you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you. There are many things that we can do. One is Secretary Bill Sack at the United States Department of Agriculture. He's the federal chair of the Restore Council. I've asked him to look into ways to bond out the revenue sources that are going to be coming through Restore in order to make sure we can get as much of that revenue as soon as possible to undertake these projects. I will tell you that we need the federal government to relieve us of our obligation to pay $100 million a year for the levee system that they created after Hurricane Katrina. There were many cost overruns and delays on that project. The interest kept accumulating. But the fact of the matter is that levee system, and we're very, very appreciative for the generosity of the people of the United States of America. Taxpayers all over the country paid for that levee system. But if we could take that $100 million and put it into coastal restoration and protection, we would actually protect that asset that they've already invested in, because you don't ever want the coast lapping at the levees. And so the more coast we can restore between the levees and the Gulf, the longer those levees are going to last, the better they're going to perform. And so we would much rather put that $100 million, and we will absolutely, $100 million a year, but over about an 18-year period. We're talking about a lot of money. We want to put that money into coastal restoration. And so we're working with the federal government, with the congressional delegation, to see whether we can get them not to forgive the debt, but allow us to spend that money in a way that complements the effort that they've already made, that protects that investment that they've already made.